Tuya bruja.
Hello, welcome, bienvenidos to Tu Tía Bruja. I'm Bex Carlos. So, okay, I know that I was trying to rebrand and start over and re release all of the episodes in a way that felt right, authentic, whatever to me. That's just not gonna happen, babe. I really think back to me in 2020 when I first started creating the show, and it was COVID, and I lost all of my editing clients pretty much, other than Francesca Hoagie. Shout out Franny. And I had told her at the time, like, I was like, if you can no longer work with me, please give me at least a week's notice, because that up until now was one of the most chaotic and hectic moments that I had ever had. I didn't know. It's so funny because I started freelancing and really working for myself in 2019. Which, if you are someone who has like a general understanding of a Saturn's return, and they're not exact, right? Like some people start feeling them as early as like 27, some people as late as 32. But when I started kind of really feeling mine, was around the time that I really created the show. And it's interesting because Tu Tia Bruja started as a podcast that we all wish we would have had a cool witchy Thea, you know? And the realization that like I'm someone's witchy Thea. And also the double entendre that like, in Spanish, things can mean multiple things. So usually when someone says tu tia, it's like a way of saying like your aunt, like the person we don't like, your aunt, right? Um I am simultaneously the black sheep of the family, and I am simultaneously the leper. And it's interesting, right? Because Marsha P. Johnson said once that, like, yeah, maybe I am crazy, but that doesn't mean that what I'm saying isn't true. And it's interesting because today is October. It's the last couple of minutes. It's 11:42. Um, we have about 18 minutes, and I'm probably just going to post this. Truly not going to edit it. I'm just going to put it up. And that would be a first, because even when I feel like I say I don't edit, I usually edit. But yesterday on the 8th was the last time in a year. A year ago was the last time I had sex with a man. And it's really interesting because the circumstances around that are so fucking weird, right? On the 8th was last year, the day that I celebrated my friend's daughter's, I believe it was 4th birthday. So earlier in the day, I went to a fucking themed, like train themed party. Right. So I was hanging out with other adults that we were all on board that like we are at a 4-year-old's birthday. Choo choo conductor. We're riding the shit train station, And so it was really earlier in the day, right? I was like eating a cupcake and hanging out with like mutual friends, and just kind of like enjoying the fun novelty that it is to be a child. And then I went home and I had made really amazing gumbo, like I think like in the 5 days before the 8th of October last year. I had made a really solid gumbo and I was trying to replicate it. And it just didn't happen. And not only did I not replicate it, like the sazon, if you will, was just not there. Not only was the flavor not there, um, fucking sliced my hand open in a way that's like so weird to think about. Like I was trying to open a Budweiser beer because it was in my fridge. It was in my parents' fridge because my dad's a Budweiser guy. He's a Midwest Union guy, you know? So Budweiser is not that unusual to have in his fridge. Anyway, so I go to open it and it's not opening. It's not opening. It's not opening. So I turn it and then, like, I don't know if it was just the pressure I was applying to it. This bitch broke off into my hand. I would say a good shard of glass was at least, I'm in Mexico now, right, babe? So I work with the metric system. So a good almost 2 centimeters in between my thumb and my, what is that, pointer finger? The shard of glass went into my hand. And just because where I was at last year was just so fucked up and so traumatic, right? I had had a tumor removed. I had almost been kidnapped. Like, I was literally not in my right mind. Like, I really do feel bad for anyone who met me at this time in my life last year. Not to say now that I'm much better, not to say now that I'm less unhinged. A bitch would like to think she's hinged, you know, but who's to say? I am the product of colonization. I am reminded of that every day. And it's whatever. Let's get back on topic. But the point is, I sliced my hand, and this is how I know I've been through trauma, because when I realized that, like, there was a piece of glass in my right hand, all I did was take the roux off of the heat so it wouldn't burn and clean it out thoroughly, pulled out the glass, rinsed it out with soap and water, put alcohol in it, and used super glue to glue it back together. Right? And a bitch is downright celibate now, because the idea of even wasting my time sleeping with people is just not worth my interest anymore. I was looking at photos of me, and it's funny because, like, a man once told me, trying to really, like, get under my skin, that I looked my hottest at 23, and I highly disagree. I highly disagree. I would say, like, when I worked at the Point, so I was looking at some of the, because some of you who have been with me from the journey early on in my media career, I was at a few different stations, but my favorite and my probably most memorable were my years being like an indie rock goddess at 1057 The Point. So I was looking at videos of myself when I would have been around like 24 or 25, and I was like, God damn, was I fucking fine as fuck. Not to say I'm not cute now, because don't get me wrong, I've been down in the dumps. I've been feeling not cute, you know. I had a fucking tumor a year ago that I was like really feeling uncalibrated and not in my body, you know, because it is weird, you know, to have like a growth of a small plum, a small 7 centimeter across by 5.5 centimeters. That's a small plum. And it was bigger than the ovary itself. And it's weird now because the ovary is functioning just fine. And when I ovulate is when it looks actually normal. I think eventually I'm going to end up losing that ovary. It seems like the teratoma might be coming back, which sucks. But, you know, live fast, die young, bad girls do it well, in the words of the prophet MIA, who's a born again Christian. I won't get into that. But so I guess a year ago and a day, almost 2 days now, I had a gash. I had a fucking gash in my hand, and I literally was in a place where I had already had to dip into my savings. And my desire, my goal, my dreams, the thing that made me like foam at the mouth was the idea of starting this Halloween cafe. I wanted it so bad that I slid. I slid back and I was like, a bitch needs to get fucking laid. A bitch needs to get fucking laid. And so a girl was on Tinder, as she usually is, because a girl likes to look into the fridge and be reminded of the opportunities, even if they aren't for me. So on this particular night of October 8th, 2023, I was fucking around on the Tinder and I got into such a verbal frenzy that made me cream at my jeans with this guy. And he was witty, he was funny. It's funny because, like, you know, a bitch loves astrology, right? But it was just like all these weird circumstances. Like, I was back in town. I was back in town because I had decided that, like, it just made sense. My parents were working on like some different legal things, and it just made sense for me to go back home. It was October. It's the season to be a witch. I had event after event after event after event after event, like, scheduled, and it just made sense, right? And so I went back and I really, this gash in my hand, I needed a distraction. A girl goes on Tinder. She hooks up with this wise talking, funny, humorous person. Again, a girl who believes in astrology. Okay, this person had my exact big three flipped. I'm a Leo sun, Gemini moon with a Sagittarius rising. I was fortunate and also cursed to have met a Sagittarius with a Gemini moon and a Leo rising. In a lot of ways, my exact opposite. Also, I can't lie because a girl loves a dude with a resume. I did once hook up with a guy who worked at the Boston Globe, and I believe my exact message to him: with a resume like that, I'd let you come on my face. You can't see me, but I'm blinking my eyelashes. A girl can definitely get a person's attention. Anywho, this person was a producer on Snapped, which I think is the funniest part of all, that someone who is so familiar with why women go crazy couldn't communicate and just be like, hey, it was really lovely to have met you. I'm not feeling it. And maybe that's just me assuming better of men. And I think that the last year has taught me that, like, a man will always choose getting laid over you, no matter the history, no matter how much you thought they meant to you, no matter how much you thought you meant to them, no matter how much you've been there for them, no matter how much you've supported them. They will always value fresh and new pussy more than they will value you. And I think that realizing that about cis straight men made me realize how weak they are, which in a lot of ways is a very powerful feeling. It's interesting. So a year ago, I hooked up with that guy, a new notch on my belt. And also the reminder that, like, you can definitely be in an environment where you learn why women go crazy and still not give a fuck or care to understand or have any empathy. I feel like my 33rd year, my Jesus year, reminded me how queer I am and how much I really don't want a man around. It's interesting because, again, I'm 34 now. And right now, the most joy in my life is that I have 6 different little ghosts, little stuffed animals, little plush figurines on my bed. My friend bought me a cat, a black cat, because she knew that I was missing my 2 cats. And that although Warache, my sweet, sweet, sweet dog that looks like a fucking hot dog, little Scooby Doo vibes, she fills my life with so much joy. But she's not Toulouse. I really miss that cat. The last year has just proved to me that as much as I thought I was an independent, badass, powerful witch, I give my power away, especially in romantic relationships, especially in situations where I let people lust after me. I never get what I want. And it's really challenging, to have this energy, this power to be able to use to help other people. Sorry, need a second to wipe away tears. I recently was so fortunate, and shout out to Sideshow Gallery in Chicago. It's a beautiful building. Definitely some spiritual activity there. Every reading that I did was so spot on in a way that I'm like, okay, a bitch might have a gift, but this is beyond me. And I was also so fortunate to shout out to Shannon Camp of Little Women, a modern audio drama. I'm so glad that we created that beautiful audio baby together. We were the cute lesbians that decided to create and raise it. But no, seriously, Shannon and I put so much work and effort and energy into creating this adaptation. And it's interesting. Moving forward, you're going to meet my friend Jay, who I think will be a really great introduction to the show and to a new project that I have coming in the near future. But I have just come to realize that I give away so much of my power in a way that I really just don't like, and I'm not doing anymore. And I've just been so focused inward, and I have all these little ghosties on my bed, and it really it gives baby spice, the part, if you've seen the movie, where she's talking to the shirtless Italian man and she's like, and then there's Buzz Wood, the alien. So there's just not enough room for you, mate. And that's just how I feel about my bed. I love having all of my stuffed animals and sometimes my dog if she jumps into the bed, but I just don't have space or room in my bed, in my life, in my heart, in my general being to put up with like people who can't communicate, people who just want to take, people who are trying to use my energy to establish themselves creatively or are just trying to feel fulfilled from my energy. Also, maybe this is just me. I don't think the men folk are okay. And this is not even just the producer dude that I hooked up with like a year ago. But it's like a lot of men that I've like talked to through dating apps where I've just been like, ick. Like so many men are because they have this weird, I don't know if it's like a religious thing. I don't know if it's just like they feel like they have to like spread their seed, but they're just like, I don't feel okay with like masturbating. Like I need to feel like I came in something. And it's like, okay, dude, but like, do you even deserve to like come in somebody? Because like, quite frankly, you don't bring a lot to the table and you can just like come into a sock for all I care because you're literally not even deserving of pussy. Because it's funny, there was a comedian whose name escapes me, but like pussy really is like the coolest fidget spinner. It really is. But the last year has truly taught me that like I don't have space for men in a lot of capacities, and like a lot of them are very uninteresting. And I just think about all the times that like I was a pick me and I wanted a man's approval, but like now that makes me throw up because the idea of even having to like be around a man most of the time really grosses me out. And I was so fortunate to grow up in a household where like my father grew up with women, so like he was just used to a certain level of like living because men are gross. And not to say that like I'm not disgusting sometimes, because women can definitely be gross, and this makes me think of like the book version of like the virgin suicide, and how like women have certain behaviors and like vagina owners have certain behaviors that like are kind of disgusting. But I would rather tolerate that than like what a cis man usually brings to the table. I just feel like a lot of the times I'm like, ugh, I can survive without that. I'd rather just live in my really cutesy environment that screams baby spice. Every day, I'm just trying to become more and more content with a space that baby spice would approve of. This is really satisfying. It's 12:01 right now. So it's officially 2 days after my year anniversary of not sleeping with a man. And I really don't even know if that's every day that I'm up by myself. I do feel more content and satisfied within my own skin. And I do think that there's something, I would say, a little cringe about people who consistently need to be in a relationship and ideally consistently need to sleep with people to feel alive or satisfied. And I think maybe that means I'm self actualizing in a way that's very gratifying, and not to judge, but like, I don't know. I think when you accomplish things that just like make you feel like you're having an impact beyond just yourself, like it is very gratifying. And like, I'm so fortunate and lucky for this podcast and for the fact that people care to listen and support the work that I do. You know, this year I was fortunate enough to add not only, you know, sideshow gallery in Chicago to my resume of shops that I've read tarot at, but also Ritual Craft. I was fortunate enough to read there last year as well, but like I was able to read there again this year. And I'm really looking forward to 2015 to time travel, right? Sorry, 2025, when I plan to check out even more shops. I'm just so grateful that because of this show, my ramblings about what I realize about myself and the world and how they connect to me in whatever way is useful to people, and that people have been listening for this is year 4, although I tried to erase a lot of the episodes that were out in the world and start from scratch. I just felt like that wasn't fair to people listening, and it wasn't fair to me because I hold myself to a ridiculous standard that is not realistic. And I feel because of that, I expect so much out of people. And I've been very fortunate to have my friend point out that, like, I did not like when so much unrealistic expectations were expected of me. So why would I continue to assume that of other people? And living in Mexico and having more time to focus on my craft and like what really like makes me feel connected to myself, my spirit, and my ancestors. I am unpacking a lot of stuff. And the last thing I want to mention is, if you have been following my work and you support the things that I do and you want to support in a way that would be very beneficial to not even just me, but just to community, I am hosting a Halloween block party on October 31st in Tequila, Jalisco. Um, some of you, if you follow me on social media, might know that I opened a coffee shop. It's called Cafe Ghosti. Cafe Ghosti is in Tequila, Jalisco. And the reason that I chose ghosty is because my dad would usually refer to ghosts as ghosties as a more endearing way to not scare me. So there were a lot of names that I threw around, but at the end I settled on that. And I love my little store. The mascot is called Malas Vibras. Her whole vibe is that she is a Mexican woman through and through. She's been through things. Maybe she's a spirit of like the revolution, and maybe she's not. But either way, she's been through things. She'll smoke a joint, she'll have a drink, she'll stab you. You don't know. Um if you would have told me that one day my inflatable ghost would be bitten, I don't know if I would have believed you, but that's definitely something that's happened. And it's just been such a weird year. I've been in Mexico for 9 months. The coffee shop has been open for 6, right? So I'm halfway to a year. I hope to make it past the year. But I am taking donations for our Halloween block party because one of the things that's very challenging about Mexico, I was so fortunate to grow up in the States, and I recognize this because I value education. I do see education as a way of getting out of not even just poverty, but getting out of just like a lot of generational curses, generational cycles. And I love reading, I love literature, I love learning, I love being aware of things. And one of the basic building blocks to education is having a pencil and a pen. And some people, a lot of people, a lot of children don't have those things. You know, I have a friend who teaches English classes to elementary school children, and you would be surprised how many of them, to private Spanish classes, still do not think to bring a piece of paper and a pen, you know? And so if you are down, if you are willing, if you want to help out, if you are a goth bitch and Halloween has always been something that like really resonated for you, I would love your support. Even $5 helps. We're putting school supplies in all of the boo baskets. We're putting American candy. We're putting Mexican candy because I'm not going to lie, Sour Patch Kids hit in a way that some Mexican candies just don't. Um, we're going to grill. I don't know if this is a thing all over the US, but I know in the Midwest, a lot of the badass houses not only had the king size candy bars, but they would probably grill a hot dog and give it to you and have soda. And I am so fortunate, you know, I remind myself of that I was able to move to Mexico, that I'm able to have had time to like slow down, to process, to feel a lot of things and work through things, because the American lifestyle did burn me out. The American lifestyle gave me a sense of urgency and a sense of anxiety that I'm having, even to this day, a hard time working through. I've been very fortunate to have mental health resources that I didn't have in the States. And I look at my life now and all of the things that I've been able to work through in the last year. And I'm just so grateful, because I was a shit show a year ago. And, you know, obviously I was working through a lot of things. I was unpacking a lot of things. I had literally gotten a tumor removed from my body. There were so many things that were going on in my life. And I just like mentally was not in a great place. And I just think about all the support that I've gotten from so many people that listen to the show, who have said that like this weirdo unhinged bitch that is living her truth has helped and supported in some way. And I'm really grateful for the fact that through me living my most authentic life and creating art and just being like, I don't know, like real about myself and who I am, that like it's inspired so many people to do that as well. And to just like figure out how magic can incorporate into your life in a way for the better. So, if this show has touched you in any way, I would really appreciate you either sharing the flyer for the block party or just like giving a few bucks, because it really does help. Candy can be expensive, and I've bought some, but I just feel like every day, like I had originally set for 100 boo bags, but just based on like the fact that people are like starting to talk, I feel like I should almost have 200 set. I don't want to turn away somebody, but thank you again for listening. Thank you again for supporting the show. And I'm so grateful that so many people have reached out and said that they are happy that I changed my mind and re-released the episodes, because so many of the original episodes, when I was just going and going and going and going in 2020, are so raw, and I'm just really glad that this show has been of use and of service to so many people. And I look forward to more episodes that really allow us to speak from a place of truth and of curiosity. I look forward to connecting. May we all channel our inner baby spice. Bye, y'all.